Welcome back to the 53rd episode of the Patrick S. Gilmore, P.S. Gilmore story. And we are in Manhattan Beach, but we're in Manhattan Beach for a very special performance from 1885 and the last day of Pompeii. I'm going to read excerpts of a witness to the last day of Pompeii and a wonderful article that was published from that event. So sit back and listen. I hope you enjoy it. Let me begin now, and please enjoy. Click like and subscribe. Beginning. No, I was not present 1800 years ago when the inhabitants of the doomed city were snowed under by hot ashes and lava. As luck would have it, I was somewhere else when the accident occurred. None of the charred remains subsequently exhumed are mine. Otherwise, I could not be smoking a 10-cent cigar while I pencil these lines. If I had been present on the occasion, I could not have eaten 7 roasting ears and other unconsidered trifles as I did for dinner today. The destruction of Pompeii that I witnessed took place, as is usual, on Coney Island, or rather Manhattan Beach. The city was completely destroyed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. This dreadful catastrophe occurs every day in the week except Sunday and Monday. General admission is 25 cents. Reserved seats, 50. No dogs allowed inside the enclosure. Performance begins at 7:30 sharp. Children are half price. I saw by the advertisement in the New York Morning Journal that the property owners of Pompeii were very much alarmed at the prospect of an impending eruption, which was to take place that evening at 7:30 sharp. So I got on the train at Long Island City, and in less than an hour I was on the grounds. The doomed city, including Mount Vesuvius and the adjacent mountains, is fenced in by a high board fence, which is erected for the purpose of preventing outsiders from gloating gratis at the destruction of the real estate. After you've paid your admission, you can gloat as much as you please. Smoking is also allowed if you have the cigars to do it with. During the day, visitors are invited to enter the enclosure and examine the doomed city before purchasing tickets for the performance. I walked in and found that the landscape was really beautiful. There was a lofty range of mountains with an ancient Roman city at their base, about 13 miles from Naples. A short, stout man with hands full of tickets approached me and asked me if I didn't want to secure a ticket for the evening performance. I hesitated. He did not seem to know that I was a member of the press and unaccustomed to pay in cash for things. These ancient Romans are very ignorant. Say I to the man with the ticket, I suppose there is no mistake about the time at which sudden and unexpected eruption is to take place. I'd hate to buy a ticket and then have to wait here a week or so for the volcanic outbreak to occur. The fat man smiled. He was a good-natured man who was not destitute of humour, for he replied very seriously, "When we advertise a volcanic outbreak, it is sure to come off, unless prevented by the inclemency of the weather. Then we always refund the money for the tickets. If we were not in time with the destruction of the city, the public would lose confidence in us. It will only cost you a quarter, and when you take in consideration the loss in real estate, that's very cheap." I handed him a quarter, sat down in a vacant seat and gazed at the wondrous landscape with its soft Italian sky. The sloping sides of Vesuvius were scarred and seamed with lava, except in places where you could see the pine boards. Vegetation was visible below the timberline, while lower down you could see the elegant country villas of the Roman aristocracy. They did not seem to be more than 2 or 3 miles distant, so clear and transparent is the pure air of Italy. Pompeii, as the fat man said with the tickets, lies at the base of Vesuvius, where any fool might see it would be in danger whenever the volcano slopped over. I asked him if all the other Italians called it Pompeii, and he replied, when I suggested he called it Pompeii, with the accent on the pay end of it. Pompeii must have been a beautiful city before it was fully destroyed. The principal building seems to have been a skating rink. The fat doorkeeper said it was the Colosseum. That as he paid the carpenters for it. He ought to know. There is even a city hall and many other temples and much statuary. From the number of men going in and out of one of the temples, I inferred it was either a saloon or a variety theatre. Whilst I was gazing at the crater of Vesuvius, which seemed to be 5 miles distant, the figure of a man wearing a blue jumper appeared in bold relief against the blue Italian sky. He was loading her up again and was not more than 75 yards off. Throwing one leg over the brow of the mountain, he called down to someone below, "Tell Jim to bring up some more skyrockets and you go for a schooner of beer." Then I strolled out and went to the beach to hear what the wild waves were saying. I like to hear everything that is said. That's the way to pick up items. The wild waves were not saying anything worth repeating, but I expect they would say something that would not bear repeating if they could tell you all they see and hear. Some people behave scandalously in the water, particularly after dark, so the doorkeeper told me. It was only 5 o'clock and Pompeii was not to be obliterated and its site forgotten for 18 centuries until 7:30. I went into the music pavilion. Admission 10 cents to hear Gilmore's band. There were 60 members with real anvils. There was also 20 pieces of artillery, which were fired by electricity. The artillery made the music very impressive. It reminds one of the war. And I was so impressed that I wanted to get up and go for something to eat. Gilmore, who directs him, is well built, trim sort of man, rather good looking. Were it not for the spectacles he wears, he might be mistaken for the late Ben Thompson. After the performance was over, they picked up their utensils and took up the line of march in the direction of Pompeii. It is a historical fact not known before outside of New York that while fire and brimstone were doing their business for the ancient Roman city, Gilmore's band played "Pop Goes the Weasel" and "The Dead March in Saul" and other appropriate melodies. At last I was at my seat. I wasn't the only person who had paid a quarter to gloat over the sad, weird scene. There were not less than 5,000 people present besides myself. The tableau is really beautiful and impressive. On the steps of the city hall near the beer saloon are about 30 ancient Roman senators in long flowing nightgowns. The costumes are said to be historically correct. A local militia company, the Pompeii Light Guards, are parading. They carry large shields and drawn swords. It was a gala day at Pompeii. The people from the country had come in to see the circus. The first performance is a foot race in front of the forum. The Roman senators in the white gowns cheer vociferously, and such expressions as, "Go! He is gaining on your Mike, bully boy," are wafted across the water to the audience. There's a lake of real water between the audience and the doomed city, on which proudly float ancient Roman galleys. After the race, other heathen sports, amongst them a religious procession, follow. In the meantime, smoke is seen oozing from the crater of Vesuvius, but as smoking is allowed inside the enclosure, it doesn't cause any alarm. The smoke becomes more dense, and every once in a while is lit up by a lurid flame from inside the crater, as if someone had spilled kerosene on the stove. Still, the gay inhabitants of this frivolous Roman city pay no attention to old Vesuve. They have no fear of the impending change in the administration, so to speak. Possibly this property is insured. The flames increase and a low rumbling sound is heard. The flames are now raging fiercely, and still the engine has not got there, just as it is in Texas. The eruption is getting worse every minute. The people of Pompeii have dropped their playthings, and another religious procession files through the street. But it is too late. The fire has gained too much headway. The scene now baffles discrimination. Temples are being consumed by the fire fiend. Tremendous explosions occurs every few minutes. Vesuvius is kept busy, shooting off hundreds of skyrockets. The very air seems to burn, and the ear is stunned by the crash of falling buildings. Houses are blown up. It is a spectacle never to be forgotten, and amid all this lurid desolation you can hear Gilmore's band playing "What Shall the Harvest Be?" "Tommy, Never Go Back on Your Mother," and other popular and appropriate melodies. But seriously, such wonderful fireworks I've never seen before but once, and that was when I fell on the ice at Central Park and bumped the back of my head. The audience gave vent to their admiration by prolonged expressions of "ha ha 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 ha." No sympathy whatsoever, as far as I heard, was expressed for the poor unfortunate natives who must have perished in the flames. The closing feature of the performance was a sudden appearance in jets of fire of an immense picture of someone called John Bright. I don't quite understand that yet. It was a bright idea, however. The last days of Pompeii at Manhattan Beach are very sad and impressive. I believe I stated that it cost $25 to get in. That does not, however, deter 5,000 people from witnessing it every single night. There are a great many rich people in New York. The expenses are quite heavy. Besides what it costs for skyrockets and other pyrotechnics, there are upwards of 100 persons employed every night to be destroyed with the city. Roman senators demand $50 a night in car fare both ways. The soldiers and priests do not add solemnity to the scene for nothing. They get 25 cents each. During the day, they drive drays or pursue some other secular occupation. Taking it all in, it is a wonderful, spectacular performance, and I am going again. That was the report from 1885 to one of these performances, and I hope you've enjoyed it. More from the P.S. Gilmore story next week, and I thank you for your attention. Click subscribe and like, And thank you for your company. Bye now.